The elevator doors slid shut just as my phone vibrated in my pocket. I pulled it out, expecting a work email or maybe a text from my assistant confirming tomorrow's presentation schedule. Instead, I stared at a calendar notification that made my stomach drop. Romantic dinner reservation, 8 p.m., the Velvet Room. I blinked twice, reading it again. The date was today, Thursday. The same Thursday I was standing in a Denver hotel elevator, 3 states away from home, wearing the navy dress Cameron had complimented last week. My finger hovered over the notification. This wasn't my calendar entry. It was his. Our calendars had been synced for years, a practical decision we'd made when coordinating our busy schedules. He traveled for his sales job. I traveled for my consulting firm. We'd called it mature and efficient. Now I called it evidence. The elevator climbed higher, but I felt like I was falling. The Velvet Room wasn't just expensive. It was the restaurant where we'd celebrated our first anniversary 3 years ago. The place with candlelit tables and a dress code. The place you took someone you wanted to impress. Someone who wasn't currently in Denver. I stepped into my hotel room and locked the door with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. My suitcase sat unpacked near the closet, my laptop bag dumped on the desk chair. The room felt too quiet, like it was waiting for me to process what I'd just discovered. I sat on the edge of the bed and opened the calendar app again. My thumb moved carefully, like the screen might explode if I pressed too hard. The entry was still there, mocking me with its careful planning. Romantic dinner reservation, 8 p.m., the Velvet Room. He'd even added a wine emoji next to it. I scrolled back through the previous weeks, looking for patterns I'd missed. There were gaps in his schedule that hadn't been there before. Blocked out times labeled client meetings, that now seemed suspiciously vague. A dentist appointment on a Saturday that I'd thought was odd but hadn't questioned. This wasn't spontaneous. This wasn't a mistake made in a moment of weakness. This was organized betrayal. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not heartbreak yet. That would come later. Right now what I felt was clarity, sharp and unforgiving. My name is Bethany Marlowe, and I'm 36 years old. I built my consulting firm from nothing, working 16-hour days for the first 3 years until it became profitable enough to hire staff. Now I had 12 employees and clients across 4 states. I gave keynote speeches at industry conferences. I mentored young women starting their own businesses. I thought I was smart, perceptive, the kind of woman who saw problems coming before they arrived. But I'd missed this completely. Cameron Wells had been my boyfriend for 4 years. We'd met at a networking event where he'd made me laugh with a joke about terrible conference coffee. He was charming, supportive, and understood the demands of my career because his sales position required similar dedication. Or so I'd believed. Now I sat in a hotel room in Denver, staring at proof that while I was away building my business, he was building something else entirely. The reservation was for tonight. Right now he was probably getting ready, choosing which cologne to wear, rehearsing compliments. For someone who wasn't me. I remembered Tuesday morning with perfect clarity now. 2 days ago, standing in our kitchen while I finished packing my carry-on bag. Cameron had hugged me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder while I checked my toiletries bag one final time. "You're going to kill it out there," he'd said, squeezing my waist. "Those Denver executives won't know what hit them." I'd laughed, turning to kiss him goodbye. "Thanks for being so understanding about these trips. I know it's not easy." "Are you kidding? I'm proud of you. Go show them how brilliant you are." He'd walked me to the door, carrying my laptop bag like he always did. Waved from the porch as my Uber pulled away. Now I understood what that scene actually was. It wasn't a loving goodbye. It was convenience. He'd been counting down the hours until I left, calculating exactly how much time my absence would give him. My success wasn't something he celebrated. It was something he exploited. The memory tasted different now. Sour. Contaminated. I didn't call him immediately. That decision felt important somehow, like it mattered that I stayed in control of what happened next. Instead, I opened our shared email account, the one we used for household bills and travel confirmations. My fingers moved across the keyboard with steady purpose. I knew what I was looking for, and it didn't take long to find. There it was. A hotel confirmation from last month. The Hamilton Hotel, downtown. 1 king bed. Check-in on a Friday. I'd been in Boston for a conference. I sat back against the headboard, processing this new information. It wasn't just tonight. This had happened before. Maybe multiple times. The calendar entry tonight was just the first one he'd forgotten to hide properly. How many business trips had I taken this year? 10. How many had he used? I opened my banking app next, scrolling through our joint account transactions. The Velvet Room charge from 2 months ago stood out immediately. I'd been in Seattle that week. He'd told me he'd ordered takeout and watched football. He'd lied so easily, so completely. My phone rang at 9:30 that night. His name lit up the screen with a photo I'd taken last summer at the beach, both of us smiling, his arm around my shoulders. I stared at it for 3 rings before answering. "Hey you," he said, his voice warm and familiar and dangerous. "How's Denver treating you?" "Busy," I replied, surprised by how normal I sounded. The presentation went well though. The clients seemed impressed. Of course they were. "You're amazing at what you do." I closed my eyes, picturing where he was right now. Had he just gotten home from dinner? Was he lying in our bed, satisfied with however his evening had gone? "I miss you," he added. "House feels empty without you." I wondered if he'd practiced that line. If he'd said something similar to whoever had sat across from him at the Velvet Room tonight. "Miss you too," I said, because I needed him to believe nothing had changed. "I'll be home Friday afternoon." "Can't wait." We talked for 10 more minutes about nothing important. I listened to his breathing, the casual confidence in his voice, and learned everything I needed to know about who he really was. I didn't sleep much that night. Instead, I sat at the hotel desk with my laptop open, making lists in a blank document. Not emotional lists, practical ones. Assets in my name only. The apartment we lived in, purchased before we met. My business accounts. My car. The investment portfolio I'd built carefully over 10 years. Shared accounts. 1 checking account for household expenses. Joint credit card we rarely used. His name on my accounts. Emergency contact for my business. Secondary user on my main credit card. Added last year when his wallet was stolen. I worked methodically, removing emotion from the equation. This was a problem that required strategic thinking, and strategic thinking was what I did professionally. I helped businesses identify weaknesses in their operations and develop solutions. Now I was the business. He was the weakness. By 3 in the morning I had a plan. Not a revenge fantasy. Not a dramatic confrontation. Just a clear sequence of actions that would protect what I'd built. Because this wasn't about heartbreak anymore. This was about survival. The next morning, I delivered my presentation to a room full of executives who had no idea I'd spent the night dismantling my personal life. I talked about operational efficiency and sustainable growth models. I answered questions about market positioning and competitive advantages. I was flawless. During the lunch break I made my first call. To my lawyer Vincent Torres, who'd helped me structure my business 3 years ago. "I need to review my personal asset protection," I said calmly. "Specifically regarding a romantic partner who has limited access to some accounts." Vincent didn't ask unnecessary questions. That was why I'd chosen him. "I can have a preliminary assessment ready by Monday. Will you be back in town?" "Friday afternoon." "I'll prioritize it." My second call went to my bank. I explained that I needed to review authorization permissions on my accounts. The representative was helpful and efficient. Within 20 minutes, I'd confirmed exactly what access Cameron had and what steps would be required to change it. Knowledge was power. I was gathering both. I sat in a cafe across from my hotel that afternoon, drinking coffee I didn't taste, thinking about all the things I'd provided without keeping score. The apartment was mine. I'd bought it 2 years before we met, when my business first became profitable. He'd moved in gradually, one drawer at a time, until suddenly he just lived there. We'd never discussed rent or utilities. I paid them because I always had. The networking connections that had helped his sales career were mine. 3 of his biggest clients had come from introductions I'd made at industry events. He'd celebrated those wins without acknowledging where the opportunities originated. The flexibility that allowed him to figure things out when he'd hated his previous job and spent 4 months unemployed was mine. I'd covered our expenses without complaint because I loved him and believed we were partners. Now I saw it differently. He hadn't betrayed me out of passion or genuine connection with someone else. He'd betrayed me out of comfort. Out of the arrogant certainty that I'd always be there, always provide, always forgive. Changed my flight. Instead of returning Friday afternoon as planned, I booked a Thursday evening departure. I'd arrive home around 11 at night. He wouldn't be expecting me until the next day. I wanted to see him unguarded. Wanted to watch how he acted when he thought I was still 3 states away, unsuspecting and trusting. The ticket change cost extra. I didn't care. Some things were worth the investment. I texted him Thursday morning. Meetings running long. Might not be able to call tonight. Love you. His response came immediately. No problem. Focus on work. You've got this. Love you too. I stared at those words, at how easily they came to him. Love became meaningless when it was this simple to fake. I packed my suitcase with the same careful attention I gave everything. Checked out of the hotel with a smile for the front desk staff. Took my Uber to the airport with my professional mask firmly in place. But underneath, something harder was forming. I unlocked our apartment door at 11:17 Thursday night. The living room was dark except for the television's blue glow. Cameron was stretched out on the couch, remote in hand, watching some action movie. He jumped when I walked in. Genuine surprise crossing his face before he recovered. Bethany, I thought you weren't coming back until tomorrow. Finished early, I said, setting down my suitcase. Decided to surprise you. He stood quickly, crossing the room to hug me. His arms felt the same as always. Strong. Familiar. Completely wrong. This is great, he said against my hair. I missed you. I pulled back, studying his face. No guilt. No nervousness. Just easy confidence and a smile that had probably worked on me 1,000 times before. How was your week? He asked. Quiet. Worked late a couple nights. Ordered too much takeout. He laughed, gesturing at the coffee table where empty containers from our usual Thai place sat. The exciting life of a bachelor. Every word was a choice. Every detail a calculated lie. Smiled back. Sounds relaxing, actually. I didn't sleep that night. Cameron did, deeply and peacefully. One arm thrown over his pillow like he always slept. I lay beside him in the dark, listening to his breathing, feeling like I was sharing a bed with a stranger. In the morning I tested him. We were having coffee in the kitchen when I said casually, "The weirdest thing happened with my calendar this week." His hand paused for half a second, bringing his mug to his lips. Just a fraction of a moment, but I caught it. "Oh," he said, recovering smoothly. "Yeah, it kept showing me random notifications. I think our sync is glitching." I took a sip of my coffee, watching him over the rim. "Did you notice anything weird on your end?" "No, mine's been fine." He set down his mug, checking his phone like he was verifying. "Probably just a bug with the app. You know how technology is." I nodded slowly. "Probably." But I knew. The pause had told me everything. He remembered the calendar entry. He was wondering how much I'd seen. And I was letting him wonder. Over the next few days I worked quietly, surgically, changing what needed to be changed without drawing attention to the pattern. I updated my bank account security questions, changed passwords on shared streaming services, modified my emergency contact information at my business office. Small adjustments that felt insignificant individually but together formed a wall. Cameron noticed nothing. Why would he? I'd always handled the administrative details of our life. Bills, subscriptions, maintenance schedules. He probably thought I was just being my usual organized self. Meanwhile, I documented everything I found. Screenshots of the hotel confirmation. Credit card statements showing dinners I hadn't attended. Calendar entries that didn't match his story of quiet nights at home. I wasn't gathering this evidence for confrontation. I was gathering it for protection, in case he tried to claim I was overreacting or misunderstanding what I'd discovered. I'd learned from building my business that you never went into a negotiation without leverage. Vincent called me Monday afternoon with his assessment. Your asset separation is actually quite clean, he said. The apartment, your business, your primary accounts are all solely in your name. The joint checking account has minimal balance. You could close it tomorrow without significant impact. What about the credit card? He's an authorized user, not a co-owner. You can remove his access with a phone call. I felt something loosen in my chest. I'd been protected without even realizing it. My natural caution about mixing finances had saved me. There's no common law marriage issue in your state, Vincent continued. 4 years of cohabitation doesn't create automatic property rights. If you want to end the relationship, you can do so cleanly. Thank you, I said quietly. Bethany, he paused, his voice gentler. Whatever you're dealing with, you've positioned yourself well. You'll be fine. I believed him. Cameron talked about Thanksgiving that week. We were folding laundry together, one of those domestic moments that should have felt comfortable but now felt like performance. My parents want to know if we're coming to Milwaukee this year, he said, matching socks. I told them probably, but I wanted to check with you first. I folded one of his shirts, creasing the sleeves precisely. That's 2 months away. I know, but my mom likes to plan ahead. You know how she is. Did know. She'd welcomed me warmly, included me in family traditions, sent me birthday cards. She'd probably be devastated when this ended. But that wasn't my responsibility to manage. Let's talk about it closer to the date, I said neutrally. I'm not sure what my work schedule looks like yet. He nodded, seemingly satisfied, and started talking about his cousin's new baby. I made appropriate sounds while my mind calculated timelines. 2 months. But this wouldn't last 2 more weeks. Chose a restaurant. Somewhere neutral and public. Not the Velvet Room with its romantic associations. Not anywhere we'd made memories. Just a clean, well-lit space where a relationship could end without drama. I made the reservation for Saturday night. Texted Cameron that I wanted to take him somewhere nice. He responded with enthusiasm, probably thinking I was being spontaneous and romantic. I wasn't being romantic. I was being strategic. I picked the restaurant specifically because it was the kind of place where people kept their voices down and their emotions controlled. Where a quiet ending could happen without a scene. I spent Friday preparing what I'd say. Not an angry speech. Not accusations. Just facts delivered calmly and a decision already made. I'd built a business by understanding that sometimes you had to cut losses. That holding on to something failing only drained resources better invested elsewhere. This was a business decision now. Cameron arrived at the restaurant Saturday night wearing the jacket I'd bought him for his birthday. Dark gray, well-fitted, expensive. He looked good. That was the thing about betrayal. It didn't always look ugly from the outside. This is nice, he said, settling into his chair across from me. What's the occasion? No occasion. Just wanted to do something special. We ordered wine. Made small talk. He told me about a difficult client at work. I listened with professional attention, the same way I listened to business presentations. Our appetizers arrived. He was relaxed, confident, completely unaware that this was an ending. Halfway through the meal, I set down my fork and looked at him directly. I know about the reservation, I said quietly. His hand froze halfway to his wine glass. I know about the Velvet Room. The calendar entry. The hotel confirmation from last month. The color drained from his face. just drained away, leaving him pale and suddenly much less attractive. You went through my phone. His voice came out defensive, accusatory. No, I said calmly. You left it accessible. Our calendars are synced, remember? You scheduled a romantic dinner while I was in Denver, and I saw the notification. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. It's not what you think. Then tell me what it is. Silence stretched between us. Around us, other diners continued their meals, completely unaware that a relationship was dying at table 12. It was one time, he finally said. Just one dinner. It didn't mean anything. I pulled out my phone, opened my screenshots folder, and slid it across the table. The hotel confirmation from September. The credit card charge from the Velvet Room in August. The blocked calendar entries labeled client meetings that coincidentally happened during my business trips. His jaw tightened. You've been spying on me. I've been paying attention. There's a difference. He reached for my hand across the table. I pulled back before he could make contact. Bethany, please. We can work through this. It was stupid. I was stupid. But it didn't mean anything. You're right, I said. It didn't mean anything. That's exactly the problem. You risked what we had for something meaningless. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. I looked at him, really looked at him, and felt nothing but tired. I've already made arrangements, I said quietly. You need to move out. I'm giving you 2 weeks to find a place and pack your things. What? Well, Bethany, you can't just. It's my apartment. My name on the lease. My decision. His face shifted through several emotions. Anger. Panic. You planned this, he said accusingly. You've been planning this whole thing. Yes, I confirmed. The same way you planned your calendar entries. The difference is my plan protects me. Yours just exposed you. He tried everything over the next hour. Apologies. Promises. Anger. Bargaining. I listened without responding emotionally. I'd already processed the grief privately, in my Denver hotel room. What he was experiencing now, the shock, the disbelief, I'd already lived through that. Now I was just executing a decision. This is cruel, he said finally. Ending everything over one mistake. It wasn't one mistake. It was a series of choices. And the cruelest part isn't me leaving. It's you staying and lying about it. I signaled for the check. Paid with my card. Stood while he sat there looking lost. 2 weeks, I repeated. I'll stay with my friend Vanessa until you're out. My lawyer will contact you about any remaining shared accounts. Your lawyer. He looked stricken. That's how you want to do this. That's how it needs to be done. Cleanly. Clearly. So there's no confusion later. I left him sitting there, still processing that this was really happening. That charm and apologies wouldn't fix what he'd broken. He tried calling, texting, showing up at my office. Every attempt went unanswered. Vanessa, my college roommate and current best friend, let me stay in her guest room without asking invasive questions. She just made coffee in the mornings and occasionally reminded me to eat. You're handling this better than I would, she observed one evening. I'm not handling it better. I'm just handling it differently. I wasn't falling apart because I'd already started rebuilding. The day I saw that calendar notification, something fundamental had shifted. I'd stopped seeing Cameron as my partner and started seeing him as a problem requiring a solution. The solution was distance. Changed my locks. Forwarded my mail. Updated my relationship status on the platforms where we'd been listed as a couple. Small administrative tasks that marked the end of something I'd thought would last. He sent a long email 2 weeks after our dinner. I read it once, feeling nothing. It was full of explanations, justifications. He'd been feeling neglected while I focused on my business. He'd been scared of commitment. He'd made a terrible mistake but had learned from it. None of it mattered. He'd had chances to communicate, to be honest, to treat me with respect. Instead, he'd chosen deception. had scheduled betrayal around my success. I didn't respond to the email. Silence was becoming my most effective tool. It said everything I needed to say without giving him ammunition or hope. Vincent called to confirm Cameron had picked up his belongings from the apartment. Everything was settled. No drama. No legal complications. Just an ending. 3 months later, my business landed the biggest contract in our company's history. A multi-year consulting agreement with a national corporation that would require expanding my team and opening a second office. I should have been celebrating with someone, sharing champagne and planning how to spend the success. Instead, I sat in my apartment truly mine again, and felt grateful for the solitude. I'd learned that the wrong partnership was worse than no partnership. That supporting someone who didn't value my success was draining resources I could invest in myself. I hired 2 new consultants, promoted my assistant to junior partner, started mentoring a graduate student interested in entrepreneurship. I filled my life with purpose instead of trying to fill the empty spaces with someone who'd never really fit anyway. I saw Cameron once, accidentally, at a networking event 6 months later. He looked the same, still handsome, still charming, working the room with easy confidence. He saw me across the space, and something crossed his face. Regret, maybe. Or just surprise. I nodded politely and turned back to my conversation. He was part of my past now, a lesson learned and filed away. Later, a colleague mentioned seeing us acknowledge each other. Ex-boyfriend, she guessed. Something like that. You seem remarkably unbothered. Smiled. I've learned that some people are chapters, not the whole story. You have to know when to turn the page. She laughed, but I meant it seriously. Cameron had been a chapter. Important for a time but not worth reading twice. I still travel for business. Still take trips to Denver and Boston and wherever my clients need me. But now when I'm away, I don't wonder what's happening at home. I don't check calendars nervously or question whether I'm trusted. Just work, build, succeed. The calendar entry Cameron forgot to hide didn't just reveal his betrayal. It revealed something more valuable, my own strength. My ability to protect what I'd built. My willingness to choose self-respect over comfortable lies. People sometimes ask if I'm dating again. I tell them maybe eventually. When I meet someone who understands that my success isn't something to exploit or schedule around. Someone who celebrates my absence not because it gives them freedom to betray me, but because they're genuinely proud of what I'm accomplishing. Until then, I'm content building an empire. One that belongs entirely to me, with foundations strong enough that no one can shake them. And every time I travel, I sleep peacefully in hotel rooms across the country, knowing exactly what's waiting at home. A life I control, respect I've earned, and peace I refuse to compromise again.